Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Indy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got it!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody, puts it up, scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome aboard. Dustin Schutte with me. Plenty to get to. Another beautiful day outside, it looks like. Dustin's leading the current leader of the Tour de France with his stage-leading attire on.
Yeah,
How's it
man.
going, man?
I love this shirt. I love wearing this shirt. I feel like I stand out. I'm never going to get hit by traffic.
Nope.
Wearing this shirt out in public.
That is the most recognizable Pacers shirt I've ever seen.
They have a lot of good stuff in the team store, but this is by far. Now it's a little bit more. Now the stuff you buy is a little bit more darker yellow. This was like a 1-year deal, I think.
Well, this was a one-time thing. I am also wearing a one-time thing deal.
Oh,
But
there you go. The Rolling Stones.
no, you can tell by
Oh, the checkered flag. Is it Indy 500 shirt? There it is. Wow.
yeah, that was I saw them there July. Was it I don't know what it said. 2016 maybe?
Yeah, 2015 it looked like.
July 4th. I remember that. I've seen the Rolling Stones 3 times, and it's ironic where I have seen them. And the first time I was just thinking last night how regretful I was that I didn't buy a shirt because I'm like, I'll get one online.
Yeah.
It was at Churchill Downs in Louisville. They were at Churchill Downs, which does not host concerts.
Right.
It was a unbelievably cool venue. They had shirts like this that had, they had the twin spires into it.
Oh man.
I will regret that for the rest of my life, not because I'm like, I'll just get one online. Nope. They had those. There was a special custom there, and like these, I didn't get it. So the next time I saw them was at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then by happenstance, the following year, I was in Mexico City for business, and the Rolling Stones happened to be there. I didn't know this and found out last second. I'm like, what? And so I went and saw them the next night at Mexico City's Formula One racetrack.
Wow.
So those are the 3 places I have seen the Rolling Stones: Churchill Downs, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Mexico City's Formula One racetrack.
That's a pretty there.
It's just weird because I know the first 2 do not host concerts still.
Right.
And maybe Mexico City does. I don't know that they'd have many bands come through there that could pack that Formula One track where they had that. But yeah, they were leaving right after that to go to Cuba to do this famous concert they did for like 500,000 people, free concert.
Wow.
So that was back in 2016, but very cool. Yeah, fun times, man.
Yeah,
I never would buy concert shirts to many concerts because, they're too expensive. I'm like, who cares? Some I'm glad I got.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of those.
Well, and that's a unique one. When I've been to concerts, the shirts that they sell are just such standard shirts. It's got the name of the band or something, and the tour.
And the towns on the back.
Yeah, but that's a specific purpose. That ties where they're at into the
Yeah.
So
That design is so cool and unique. And
right, exactly.
But that's why I made sure to grab it, because I remembered the Twin Spires, baby. I never got that one. And I was like, oh my gosh. That one will haunt me for a while, but that's okay. What else is going on? What's going on with you?
No, man, we just we continue to dive into the off season at Saturday Tradition and looking ahead to previewing each team. Right, shortly we'll be coming out with previewing each team's offense, better or worse, basically. Whether we look at the passing game, the rushing game, kicking game, personnel, and just kind of evaluate where the teams were in 2020 and what we expect in 2021. And then in a few weeks we'll do the same thing with defense. So. We're just kind of breaking down schedules, previewing, and getting all the preseason stuff ready to go for because we're just 2 months away, basically at this point from the start of the college football season, which is crazy because it seems like we just ended spring practice. And that's one of the good things. Well, maybe I shouldn't say good things, but that's one of the things that I've kind of liked about this spring is you had, Purdue start as early as February. Rutgers went through basically the mid to end of May. So it's kind of condenses the amount of off season you have to deal with because somebody's always in spring practice. So that's what we're working on right now.
Well, there's plenty to get to, and Indiana's got plenty of, I was going to say football talk, which they do. Basketball, it's like, well, pick your poison because there's just tons of it keeps coming out. In that regard, but we'll get to that. Something else that I've heard some season ticket holders complaining about, but you've never heard Indiana football season ticket holders complain about anything because there's never been anything to complain about. You could move about the stadium wherever you like. Go sit wherever you want. Well, that's probably about to come to an end. Well, it's definitely coming to an end officially, but it will probably come to an end as far as capacity issues. But reading off of the Hoosier.com from someone, for the first time since the 2010 season, a total reseeding of Memorial, and that's seating, not seeding of the grass, reseating of Memorial Stadium is underway. He put that in total quotes because there were seats blocked out before the first selector entered the seat selection system at 8 a.m. yesterday, whenever this was on June 9th when this was written. Blocked out his seats, premium seating. So I don't know. There's a seating. I don't know if they've gotten it resolved, but some people were getting moved around. They were not getting the same seats that they had before. And some of them weren't as good. Some of them were better. Indiana didn't have a reason to worry about this before. It's kind of funny. This is the kind of stuff Indiana has to worry about now. They've never had to worry about football seating issues. Like I said, go sit wherever the hell you want.
Right.
Literally, you can literally almost at any game go sit wherever you want. Those days are probably gone.
I'll never forget. Just as an experience, when I was a college student, I'll never forget each year, not each year, 2 years, we went to the Purdue-Indiana game at Indiana. We had our friends buy us some, because I was not a student at IU, I went to Manchester, and would purchase us student tickets to get into that game. And we would just sit in the ends. We would move around to 3 or 4 different spots throughout the course of the game. I mean, you didn't have to sit in that seat. There was nobody checking the tickets to see your seat or anything like that. So I have full experience just wandering around Memorial Stadium, picking different seats for multiple years. Yeah.
But that's a good problem. It's a problem I'm sure they wish they would have had a long time ago, but it's not a problem. It's just something that they're dealing with right now. And if you're a season ticket holder, if you're not, probably a good time to do that because get these tickets and lock your seats down now. Now that they are doing that, get yourself some good seats. They're not that expensive. And like I said, I think that Tom Allen is going to keep this roll going.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that frustrates me a little bit about, and this isn't just Indiana, this is all colleges, but the thing that frustrates me is it's usually the donor amount, the amount you're going to donate, and that's the order that you get to pick your seats or, priority selection or whatever the case might be. I wish at Indiana they would have, maybe this is how they're doing it. if you've been a lifelong or 10-year or however long season ticket holder, they should go in the order or the longevity that you've been a season ticket holder, and really reward the people who have been supporting the team. I mean, you could have somebody who's just now a season ticket holder throw a bunch of money and get their priority. So, I mean, that's a cheap cheap take on that. But that's
called life, my friend. Welcome to the real world.
I'm just saying, reward those.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, but that's life, baby. The almighty dollar speaks.
And especially coming out of the pandemic, when every college and athletic department it lost, millions and millions of dollars.
Well, here's the thing. If you're a season ticket holder, there can't be that damn many of them originally.
Right.
Because it only holds 52,000. So do they have 20? I don't know. I do not know how many season ticket holders they had last year or previous to the COVID, but
right.
I think you would be able to get a really good seat as a season ticket holder still to this day. So there's that. There's not a bad seat in Memorial Stadium. It's not big enough. It's only 52,000. The design is the same design. The architect was the same architect that did Assembly Hall.
Okay.
And
there's lots of Assembly Hall, so
yeah, that's a whole nother different story there, boy. And Assembly Hall is not going anywhere.
No.
Not to switch subjects, but why not? It does suck to have such an iconic building that sucks for the fans.
Right.
I know the fans that sit 35 rows and below are fine with it.
Oh, yeah.
As you should be. It's great. You get beyond that, it's not so good anymore.
Right.
And from my memories of being a college student at IU, that balcony, man, you couldn't pay me to go up there now. It was like, send me a telegraph. What's going on down there?
I remember my first ever Purdue Indiana game in Assembly Hall was as far up in the balcony and as far to the left as you could possibly go. And I'm telling you, I couldn't even see what was happening on the Jumbotron. I mean, you
probably couldn't see the Jumbotron.
Exactly. It was exciting to still be there, be in that atmosphere because, even though there's a lot of bad seating in Assembly Hall, when it's packed and it's rocking, it's one of the best atmospheres in college basketball. But it was like I had never been in an arena quite that steep and had seats. I mean, I've sat at the very top of Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and I don't even think the seats were. I still think the seats were better there because of the layout, because of the layout you have at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. It's just, but Indiana's not the only one that has that problem. Hinkle Fieldhouse has some seats where you're behind a post or the thing, the overhang blocks or.
That's like Hinkle is Wrigley Field and oh my God, Fenway Park. I've been to both of those, and there are some really crappy seats in those baseball parks, but that's because they were built in the early 1900s.
Right.
But they're the same thing. I'm glad you brought that. Those, it's the same as, well, I don't know if I'd put Assembly Hall in their categories, but all three of those are iconic sports venues that really are not great for spectators because the other ones were because they were built so long ago.
Right.
This was just a poor design for Assembly Hall. I mean, it's great for acoustics, I guess, but it's not good for fans watching the games.
Right.
But none of those three venues are going anywhere anytime soon.
Nope.
So, but yeah, I was in the balcony for was it Kendall Gill that hit that damn shot in Illinois, beat Indiana after Jay Edwards had just hit one at like 3 seconds. I was in the balcony for that game. So there's that. We got to hit a break already. I can't believe that. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll be back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans. Man, I was like, are you kidding me?
Anytime you get in those long conversations in the first segment, that goes by really fast.
Gosh, I got something in my throat today. Can't get it out.
What did I just saw a text and I can't find a read. Daggone it.
Did you watch that game last night, Bucks and Hawks?
No, I wish I would have.
It was I was talking.
Is that the one where Trae Young scored like 1,000?
I mean, yeah, he was incredible last night.
How about he scored like 40 something?
I don't remember. I didn't remember the stat line. Actually, I was talking. A buddy and I had a long conversation, so I recorded the game and watched it again this morning. Or I watched the second half this morning. That was a fun game. And the last 2 seconds didn't take 11 minutes like it did the other night.
I was watching every one of those. The closer the game, the more important these games are. Yeah, that'll be every time. The game 7 the other night, I don't know how long I sat there and watched the last minute take.
Yeah.
It had to take 20 minutes.
I wish they would. I really do wish they would just do away with replay. I hate it.
Well, for certain things, it's dumb because sometimes the thing that well, this is actually a good conversation, so I'll save that. But
Save it.
Yeah, get out of that. We got plenty of recruiting crap to talk about, man.
Excuse me.
Was Carter Smith the only guy from yesterday, or was there somebody I missed?
For who?
Indiana
For
football.
what? I mean, that's just on that right now. You mean visiting or committing?
No, committed. Carter Smith committed yesterday.
He was the only one as of about 6 o'clock because that's when I stopped writing last night.
I don't know. I didn't see anybody else.
All right, I'm going to bring us back in.
Fieldhouse in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Happy Thursday! Dustin Schutte's with me. Hope you guys are having a great day. Hope you had a great morning, and you're going to have a great evening. Recruiting is just off the chain right now for Indiana. Football, basketball, take your pick. We'll get to basketball because I think that's about to quickly be at the level. From a recruiting standpoint, I think Indiana basketball is going to get back to the level of the Bob Knight era this quick. I'm not talking next year. I'm talking right now. Right now. Yeah, let's get to that. Save that because that's a whole deal. But Indiana football, we can talk about them every day almost right now.
Yeah.
We talked yesterday about Hoover, the quarterback, the Texas quarterback. Did you watch the film on him?
I still haven't seen. Yeah.
There's like an 11-minute highlight film on the Hoosier.com, and I watched a good portion of it. I don't know how many 7-second clips it takes. I guess I could do the math to fill in an 11-minute deal, but it's a lot.
It would be like what, 77?
That's a lot. So usually when you're watching someone's highlight reel, they're picking out the best stuff. You're putting up 77.
Right.
That's a lot.
Right. I was going to say it may not. My math is. I'm terrible at math. That's why I'm a sports
Well,
writer.
close enough. It's a lot is the point because these
Right.
were all just like 6-7 second clips, boom, after one after another, and every one was the same thing: a throw overhead where only the receiver can get it, a throw in the seam, dead on the money on a moving target. A kid who goes back and does not hold on to the ball, boom, lets it go and is accurate. He looked, I'm assuming these are all junior year highlights from his high school. He looked college ready on that film. I'm like, I'm color me impressed, but I'm like, and he's a 3-star. I'm like, okay, what the hell's holding him back from being higher rated? As I watched him. And someone mentioned maybe it's the offers he's getting. Arkansas is the highest offer other than Indiana at the moment. But I'm like, the dude threw for 3,500 yards and 36 touchdowns in Texas. But I don't care about that. I was watching him. I know what I saw, and I'm like, wow. Just the poise, all of it. I mean, this dude's a quarterback, man. And those kind of recruits in Indiana's quarterback room, oh my God, that's stocked. That's a whole nother discussion to have. But
right. Well, I was gonna say, you never know. I mean, you probably know, but I mean, I don't know. Was there any injury history? Maybe he's not quite as mobile as they like. Obviously in a highlight reel, you're not seeing the bad. You're only seeing the good. But when you throw for when you throw for over 3,500 yards and 30 some touchdowns, there's a lot of good, and you can kind of weed out and work on the bad. So it'd be interesting to know why some of these other programs aren't recruiting him. It's interesting to know why he's just a 3-star recruit. And look, this isn't perfect. I mean, we've seen guys who are, continuously at Iowa. You see Kirk Ferentz turn 2-star prospects into NFL draft picks.
Well, Bill Mallory's doing. I mean, Bill Mallory, Bill Mallory. I can't believe that. Tom Allen is doing that already. Not quarterbacks yet, but with players. So, and I think he saw that. Texas is one of the largest states in the country, but it's also one of the, if not the biggest football player producing state in the country. Is there just too many quarterbacks there that get looked over?
Well, that's what I was going to say.
He threw for 25. He threw for 2,500 yards as a sophomore.
Well, and I wonder where the comparison is, because you look, and this is a good example. Ohio State has a commit from Quinn Ewers, who is a Texas quarterback. He is the #1 overall prospect. He's right up there with Trevor Lawrence in terms of where he rated overall as a potential prospect. So you kind of wonder if that, like, are they, when you are in the same state, are they comparing those two guys and being like, okay, he's nowhere near where this, this once in a lifetime type of talent is. And he's probably not, but that's not a fair, he doesn't have to be, so I don't know. It's really interesting. I think that there probably is just so much talent in Florida, in Texas, Georgia, Ohio. It's hard to get a beat on some of these guys. And that's why you see, you'll see 3-star quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield was a walk-on, at Texas Tech before he transferred to Oklahoma, won a Heisman Trophy and was a first-round pick. So it's not an exact science. And usually your eyes don't lie. I mean, if he's a really good high school quarterback and he's comfortable throwing that much at the high school level, like you said, he can come in and he might be able to challenge, maybe not right away for the starting job, but he might be able to get #2 on the depth chart. And that helps. That helps your quarterback room. If you have that competition, I go back to Minnesota in 2019, and well, actually, Indiana's a good example. When you have Peyton Ramsey and Michael Penix, those two neck and neck having to compete for the starting job, that elevates the level of play you're going to get at the quarterback position. So, building that depth, and then again, we talked about transfer portal. You have to continually recruit the quarterback position because you never know who's going to leave, who's going to stay, how many quarterbacks you're going to have from one season to the next. It's a whole mess with that.
And we haven't talked about depth. The offensive line, obviously a critical area, especially for a team like Indiana who is going to be throwing the ball a lot. Another commitment, Carter Smith, another Ohio kid. And I mentioned that because that's bedrock football, man. Texas, Ohio, Florida. Those are probably the three big. I mean, you'll go California, but that's not a recruiting hotbed here. But those three that I just mentioned, if you could fill a team off of those three states, easy.
Well, and like I said this the other day, Mark D'Antonio at Michigan State got to won multiple Big Ten titles and got to the college football playoff by recruiting a lot of the kids that Ohio State kind of looked over, the kids that Michigan looked over. There are a lot of he had those ties to Cincinnati. There are some really, really talented players in the state of Ohio. And again, when they're not getting recruited by the big name schools, there's a chip on their shoulder. They want to go to Ohio State. I mean, they grew up. I mean, Ohio State, that is what most of them, that's their goal. So to come in with that chip on their shoulder, and now you're starting to see, now that Mark D'Antonio's gone, Tom Allen's kind of swooping in there and getting some of these, diamonds in the rough. Some of these 3-star guys that are coming in with that, they're bringing their lunch pail. They got the blue collar mentality. And as much as you want those 4- and 5-star guys, you also got to have some of those guys that are like, you know what, I got looked over. I'm a 3-star. I'm a 2-star guy. I'm going to show you why I can be an all Big Ten, offensive lineman, linebacker, defensive end, whatever the case might be.
Well, that's how Tom Allen has started and his recruiting, turning these 3-stars into All-Americans.
Right.
When you see, and when these guys see that, we're like, oh, hell, I can go there. It doesn't matter. So I can become what I need to become. And you're right. Indiana has replaced Michigan State in the what I call the top 4 of the Big Ten East.
Oh, yeah.
But they're going to do a much better job of it because Tom Allen is a much better person to deliver kids than Mark D'Antonio was. Mark D'Antonio, he had the personality of a stump, but he was winning, and that matters. So, but you saw what happened when he wasn't winning, and things went awry. But I don't think that the difference between those two guys, Mark D'Antonio was not Tom Allen in any stretch of the imagination from a personal standpoint. And that is making a huge difference in allowing Indiana to get a little bit better than what Michigan State was doing.
And let me say this too, is a lot of times we get hung up on the stars that these kids have or the overall rating that they are. But fit is incredibly important. After that,
Tom Allen preaches it.
Ever since that 2015 season, that 2016 recruiting class for Mark D'Antonio, I think it was a top 5 class. I don't remember where it ranked in the Big Ten, but it was high up there because after getting blown out by Alabama, he was like, we got to take that next step in recruiting. You got a bunch of guys that didn't buy into the culture. They didn't have that Michigan State mentality. And you saw what happened. I mean, it was the collapse of the program. You had instances with, with abuse on campus. You had issues, legal issues. So there was just so much that happened. So as much as you want to say, why aren't we getting the high 4-star, maybe a 5-star guy? You have to make sure you get the right people into your program because it can go bad like that. I mean, Michigan State, from the top of the top to the bottom of the Big Ten, I mean, not the very bottom, but they were barely above. I mean, they were above Rutgers and Maryland, and that was about it. To me, how they got there is, I think D'Antonio was a dirtbag. I mean, I developed that opinion because on him off of a couple of things. I cannot remember the IU running back that was, but he was on the bottom of a pile, and there was a Michigan State player
I can't remember what he was. Oh, he's punched him in the throat, I think. On the bottom of a pile. Just punched him in the throat while he's laying on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And you clearly seen on video. No disciplinary action by D'Antonio. He had that kid that was arrested 7 times for the same infractions. The 7th coming just before they were to come to Indiana to play. The punishment to that guy, he sat out of play. D'Antonio was a dirtbag, and dirtbag plays and it came to fruition. And his end was because he was a dirtbag. When you build and operate like that, that's going to crumble.
Right.
How many guys, and it doesn't matter what we're talking about, could be celebrities, sports, whatever. How many people do we see that have been built up, and then they just fall because behind the curtain, that's not going to happen to Tom Allen. I'm not here to make this a Tom Allen love fest. This is just the truth, though. That stuff's not going to, because he's genuine. And and I know that from being around him. Those guys, it is what it is. If you're a dirtbag and you build your program's going to fall eventually. I don't care who you are. If you cheat, Rick Pitino's, whoever you are in the world, eventually it's going to fall.
Well, I mean, I don't know Mark D'Antonio, and I'm not going to label. I don't, not working in it as long as I have. I'm not going to label him a dirtbag or anything. But
that's why I get to do that.
There you go. You can do that. I also,
in my opinion, he's a dirtbag.
I also think that there's a point where you see some coaches kind of give into that forbidden fruit, in that this is what it's going to take to win. This is what I'm going to be willing to. And we've seen that. Look at LSU.
Blue chips. Yep. Blue chips. That's all blue chips is about. That guy was a straight-laced winner and got sucked in to doing that. And I guarantee you that happens to some coaches, because there are teams that are just downright cheating. I mean, everybody knows the Southeastern Conference, those teams, it's like it's almost a game probably who can cheat the most down there.
I mean, you look at what Tennessee was doing.
Tennessee, Auburn, go down the list. Which one of how many Southeastern football schools have never been on probation? There's a great question for you.
That is a great question. Well, you have, just in recent memory, you've got the stuff with LSU. You have the stuff with Tennessee. You have
LSU's not done.
Exactly. Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss. I'm sure that you could continue to go on, but those are just the 3 off the top of my head that I know. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know these coaches. I don't know their personality away from football. I'm just saying, I think once you get to a certain level, that you kind of give into that temptation. And I think, I don't, people have different opinions on Mark D'Antonio. I'm indifferent. I don't know him. I'm not going to judge him. I do think that towards the end of his tenure, after that college football playoff, he gave into that forbidden fruit and was willing to do just about whatever it took to try to win a national championship. And it did not work out for him. And it didn't work out for Michigan State either. And that's why he stepped down after the 2019 season.
Step down's a nice word. More like standing on the top of the stairs and being pushed down. But yeah. Hey man, we got to take another break. It's just flying. We haven't even gotten to basketball yet. Basketball recruiting is off the chains. As I mentioned, we'll talk about that. Plenty more when we come back.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for...
He is a dirtbag.
That's it. I'm not going to say it. I don't know.
I like to say it. I like to say it.
Bad decisions, but...
Jim, give me your top 3 worst Big Ten football coaches in terms of dirtbagginess. Current Big Ten football coaches.
Oh, current?
Current dirtbaggiest football coaches for Big Ten.
I don't know that.
Or is it not a topic that you should say on the air?
No, it's fine if there was, but you don't think I'd tell you what I think? Are you kidding me? If you've not been listening to, I promise you, if I think something, I'm going to say it. But right now, I mean,
Scott Frost, right?
No. He's not a dirtbag at all. I don't know. No. Mark D'Antonio's a dirtbag because of everything Dustin just said. He gave up trying to win the right way because he couldn't. He couldn't keep up with Michigan. He couldn't keep up with Ohio State. He couldn't keep up with Wisconsin. Well, he couldn't compete. Couldn't beat them.
He beat Michigan.
Well, I meant consistently.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he beat Michigan in one of the greatest Michigan losses of all time.
Yeah, well, no.
Or was the punt? Who won the punt game? Michigan or Michigan State?
No, he did kind of.
That's got to be the. He owned Michigan.
He did own Michigan. I mean, not at the end, not when Harbaugh came in, but before that, not that. No, I mean, a lot of
Michigan. But Michigan had been on a real.
Mm-hmm. So
for a long time. Now that's.
I think when the point to Scott Frost, John, I think he was just a little too cocky when he came.
I was just getting ready to say he's
when
very
you come from
arrogant.
The culture that he had at UCF, where they were crowning themselves national champions or whatever.
This is a great conversation. Yeah, I don't like to because that's a good conversation, and you're welcome to be a part of it when we come back. We'll finish that up and then go into basketball.
All right.
I don't want to mess your segments up though.
You got 20 minutes at 10 o'clock, so you're good. It's easier to keep up with the time when we don't have guests. I'm not saying. I mean, I know guests are good, but I'm just saying it's one caveat that makes things a little bit easier when we don't have guests.
Who is in?
All right, bring us back in.
20 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. Happy Thursday. That means we're one day away from TGIF, baby. This week has flown, man.
Yeah, it has.
Part of it because you've been on so much and it just flies. We talk about so much. It's fun. Man, we could continue with football, but there's twice as much with basketball right now. Recruiting, I said earlier, and I don't want to, I tried to not go too far, like making predictions on, well, Indiana's going to win the Big Ten, all that craziness. But from a recruiting standpoint, Mike Woodson has had more talent on campus. Mike Woodson will bring in more talent in this season, have more talent in and committed than Archie Miller did in 4 years. 4 years. He will have this done in 2 months.
Yeah.
That is not an exaggeration. That is not because virtually all these kids are out of state. Guess what Archie Miller could never land? An out-of-state talent. Geronimo, yes, I know he's Massachusetts. That kid thought he was going to play Division III basketball. He's not these 5 stars, 4 stars that are coming in. I'm not saying I don't want to get hung up on the star thing. Geronimo accepted the scholarship upon offer. They had to tell him, go home, think about it. So he went home, thought about it, and the next day called, yes, I'll take it. Again, he thought he was going to go play Division III basketball. He said that. He walks into Assembly Hall and is like, Hell no, I'm home. But this is a difference. This is what I was talking about before when Indiana didn't. You can get the Indiana kids, which you should, but you have to bring in the outside elite talent too.
Mm-hmm.
Archie couldn't do that. Nobody wanted to play for him. That has changed like that. We've talked about plenty. Indiana offered a 2023 four-star combo guard, Ja'Kai Newton. So there's another new offer. You can find all this stuff on thehoosier.com. Alex is doing a great job. Caleb Glenn is visiting today. How many visits is that in the last week and a half or 5 now, 6?
A lot.
All top. Now, Archie did not have the ability last year because of COVID.
Right.
But the other 3 years,
he did.
So, yeah, but you're also going to get to a point. You cannot have 13 four-star guys. Just because, man, there's only so many minutes to go around.
Right.
And if Bob Knight did a great job because Bob Knight had a lot of talent on his teams, but he also had a lot of guys that were role players that just did their job, that could go into the game, do their job, and facilitate. And I think that's how it is going to have to be again. Because you cannot if you got 13 four-star guys, 5-star, and man, that guy sitting on the end of the bench saying, dude, I should be on the floor. Right. So that's what makes it difficult. But with this transfer portal, man, year to year, it has changed. It's so different than back then because, hey, you had them for 3 and 4 years. They weren't going anywhere.
Right.
Hell, now you don't know from year to year.
Right. Or even in the middle of the year. Some kids hit the transfer portal in the middle of the year. They might transfer out. It's a semester. The thing, everything is so nationwide now that, and especially in college basketball where everybody gets an equal opportunity to win conference titles, to play on the big stage, to compete for a national championship. You can have a guy like a Steph Curry go to a Davidson and they can make a deep tournament run. You can have some of these guys play for these lower programs and say, you know what, I could go to Indiana, be a role player for 2 years and then get my shot, or I can go, I can go to Southern Illinois and be a starter right away. It's just different times now. I mean, that's kind of the way it was. You went to Indiana, you sat on the bench, or you were in your role for a year or two, and then you would get your opportunity if you were good enough.
I'm not going to be the starter. Well, I'm going to leave. I'm going to get back in the portal. Oh, my God. He's been waiting for the moment to play that.
Perfect timing, too.
He's been waiting like a kid at Christmas. John, the producer I'm talking about. And before I forget, I got to pull this up. I cannot tell you guys how much you get messages all the time, and I respond to about every message I get. I'm pretty positive. If I don't, it's because I missed it. But I got one last night, and daggone phone. Really, really appreciate it. Super nice from a great listener. Oh, man, it's awfully long. Oh, I should have had that thing prepared, but
story time.
He's in South Florida. Scott Taylor, thank you so much. One of our listeners in South Florida just sent an incredible, and that wasn't the first one he'd sent one before, but really, really, really appreciate you guys and those messages. I wish I could read it, but it was just a great message. Just nice and complimentary. And thank you, brother. I appreciate you down there. He can't listen during the day, but he listens every night. So tonight, when you're listening, we were thinking about you today, man. I'm going to get him a visor out too. I got
Donald Singh, I got a visit advisor out to, and some other people. But let's get back to it. What were you saying?
That's a great question. I've already lost my train of thought. You threw me off with the kind words, apparently.
Yeah, those don't come from me very often, do they?
Well, I mean, I know we were talking about the transfer portal. I mean, it's just a different time, because if a guy doesn't think he's getting enough minutes, enough exposure, if he doesn't think he's being used the right way in the offense, or whatever the case might be, then he's gone. And we've talked about it before. Tampering is already happening. I mean, all a coach has to do is tell one of his players, hey, say this guy, we got a starting spot for him, and this is in football, this is in basketball. And this is why you're starting to see, the pandemic played a little bit of not a little bit. It played a lot of a role in the fact that you had 1,700 kids in the transfer portal. That's it. That's crazy to me. 1,800. So it's just
Dickie V was on last week talking about he hates the portal. I don't want to say I hate the portal. I hate how easy it is. Who was it? I think it was Rick Bozich who said that his thought on it is that he thinks freshmen should not be allowed to use the portal.
Right.
I like that idea because it forces you to.
Well, and maybe Rick
think.
Maybe Rick, validated this or talked about it more. I would say that you can, if you're a freshman, maybe even a sophomore, you can enter the portal, but that's where you're going to have to sit out a year. You can transfer, but you're going to have, after your second year or first year, whatever, after you've gone through some hardships, then you can transfer for that one-time rule. That would be because you can still enter the portal. I don't want to tell a kid, if he's had a really bad experience, you can't tell somebody, for whatever reason, or if he needs to move back closer to home, hey, you can't transfer until after then. But if you want to transfer, you're going to have to follow the old guideline of sitting out for one full season.
Do you know why they can never stop this? They don't enforce contracts among coaches. A coach can have a contract and it doesn't mean jack.
Right.
If a coach wants to leave, he's going to leave. Well, we got a buyout. Okay, pay my buyout. So why should the student athletes be forced to not get paid and adhere to rules that the coaches don't have to?
Well, they're about to get paid. That's number one. Number two.
I know that's what I'm saying before, but
the other thing is Dick Vitale even said this on your show. If a coach leaves, then that's when you can allow the player, if they're a freshman or whatever, you can say, let's let these guys transfer without penalty. I mean, there's going to be no fairness no matter how you dice this up.
No, because there's so many things. What if you're playing for Greg Marshall, or we're playing for Greg Marshall? You want to get the hell out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. But tampering by players is rampant. You look at the NBA, well, they have rules. They fine guys. If LeBron James can't go on Twitter and say, yo, KD, come on out to LA. I got a spot for you here. Let's join me. He did that once, and I think it cost him some change. They fine you. You can't fine student athletes. And open tampering, I don't know that they do it openly as much, but everybody just, hey, dude, come over here. Come play with us. Hey, come over here now. Now, with the transfer rule, you could literally build super teams like that without. See, now, I guess maybe it's open. Is it going to equal the playing field for the other schools against the Dukes and Kentuckys and Kansases who were already kind of getting that from Nike and Adidas and all of that? They were getting that feed. Well, now so any school can. You happen to have a superstar who knows 6 superstar buddies and convinces them to come over to Howard University. What's to say Howard couldn't always be a powerhouse like that with the transfer rule?
Well,
I just use them as an example.
Right. Well, what I'm interested in too is when you have this many kids enter the transfer portal, and you talk about incoming recruits, there's not enough spots. Like some of these kids are gonna have to go down to NAIA, Division II, maybe even Division III.
Just saw something on an administrator said, "Hey man, you guys better be careful. The grass is not always greener," and you're exactly right.
And so that's where I think because the portal's new, because it's something that players haven't had the opportunity to do, I think it's the new flashy thing. I'm really interested to see what happens in the next 5 years or so. And some of these other players, after they get, a little bit more life experience, maybe maybe they say, you know what, the transferring was not my best option. It was an impulse decision. I made the wrong choice. I should have stayed where I was. You never know. And again, I think because of the pandemic, kids not being able to go home, see their families, being on campus an extended period of time, I think that played a huge role in this. So I don't know that we'll see this many next year, but I still think it's going to be a big part of the offseason. I think it's going to be the big part of the offseason for the next 4 or 5 years. I'm interested to see if it continues after that, because you're going to have a lot of players, I think, regretting their decision.
You don't have to ask me how many bad decisions I made when I was 18. Exactly. Ask me how many bad decisions I made last month.
Exactly.
But none of those involved setting up the rest of my life.
Right.
None of those involved my education. None of those involved my future job. That's why these decisions are so critically important, because they're coming at a critically important time in their life. Right. And there are opportunities that you don't always get twice. So yeah, tread lightly, man. It's new ground, and it's a new toy, and it can be fun. And there's probably never going to be hardly any of these guys, but I could see a kid that sets out with his mind saying, you know what? I'm going to go play at 4 different schools. I'm going to go get his first school and then transfer to another one and find an open spot, transfer to another one. A middling guy who's not going to go anywhere. Silliness.
We've seen that in college football before. I think there's a couple players who have been on their 3rd or 4th school. The one thing is that at least the NCAA is trying to prohibit that by you can't, after your first year, you have to sit out a year. If you transfer once, that's it. And so I think that does serve as at least some sort of a buffer, because if I'm a guy and I transfer, if I'm at Indiana and I transfer to Buffalo, and I don't like it at Buffalo, well, I'm stuck at Buffalo, or I'm going to have to transfer somewhere else to, like, say, DePaul, and I'm going to have to sit out a year. So you're talking about losing eligibility, not being happy with your first 2 situations. So there's at least something in place. It just hasn't stopped many kids from doing it.
Yep. We'll certainly see. Let's see. It's already plenty coming out, man. It's just been – this is not supposed to be a busy news time of year. It's supposed to be the time that we kind of try to recharge a little bit. I remember when the IU basketball thing finally stopped, whenever that was. When was that? Sometime in June, the beginning of June, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I just want to go into a Michael Jackson chamber and sleep for a while, man. But not the long sleep. But yeah. But this has been busy. It's been busy.
Right.
It's just been, there's so much, and it's not slowing down at all.
Well, these coaches, football and basketball, have to make up for lost. I mean, really every sport, they have to make up for lost time. This is a month. We're still less than 30 days into the NCAA lifting its dead period after 15 months. So they're eager to get guys on campus, and that's 2022, 23, 24 recruits. Whether it's an official visit, unofficial visit, whether it's women's basketball, football, softball, they want to get kids on campus. And get them in, and speak to them face to face. It's been so long. So it's been a lot of June and July are busy recruiting months in a normal year. So you multiply that times 10 because everybody's doing a lot of their work this month and then next month. And then it'll be August before you know it. And we'll be talking about, Indiana going to Iowa in a few weeks. So
don't talk about that. It gets me excited. Indiana also basketball offered Ja'Kai Newton, 2023 4-star on Tuesday. They've got a good thing going. Assistant coach Yasir Rosemont is doing just a knockout job. But Ja'Kai was talking to Alex Lasley, and he said, Coach Ya, and that's another thing, man. They got a great Nick, Coach Ya. So there you got that built in. Coach Ya called me. He said, somebody wants to talk to you. That's when Mike Woodson got on the phone. It's like, this is the White House. Please hold for the president. But I mean, to those kids, I mean, he's a big time dude, man. And so it has, and there was another offer that I meant to talk about just a second ago because we got to quickly take a break. Justin Taylor's making we'll get to that next. Justin Taylor's going to make his decision, but there's another kid from Louisville they've offered. That's 2 kids from Kentucky are looking at. That's 2 more kids from Kentucky they've looked at in the last 30 years, I think. So that net, he's throwing the net like Jesus did back in the old days on the fish, man. He's boom, just trying to roll them all in. The net is going anywhere. It doesn't matter. There are no forbidden grounds as before. There used to be certain places, no more. Wherever. They're going everywhere. We'll talk about that and plenty more when we come back.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans.
Now, you do have Chris coming up this segment.
Yep. Thank goodness.
Is there anything new about the Pacers coaching search that y'all going to talk? Because I haven't kept up with that at all.
Well, they should have started meetings yesterday, I believe. It's been a hush-hush deal. They were supposed to meet in Chicago with Terry Stotts and 2 others.
I can't remember the third guy. David Shaw was one of them.
Former Pacers assistant.
Mm-hmm. And Nuggets head coach?
I mean...
The Rick Carlisle thing interests me.
Well, you got Mike. You got me confused with
Mike D'Antoni.
Mike D'Antoni. Is it D'Antoni or D'Antonio?
D'Antoni.
Mike D'Antoni, Terry Stotts, and who you just said?
David Shaw.
No.
Rick
there was another. Yes, Rick Carlisle. How about those 3 options? We'll throw it to Chris Denari, man. Those are 3 unbelievably good available options.
Give me Rick.
Talk about Rick Carlisle, Terry Stotts, and now you made me forget the third one.
Brian Shaw.
Yeah.
Why do I keep saying David Shaw? He's the football coach.
Coach Stanford.
Yep.
Football.
That's why. My mind's still set on college football.
Well, I bought a new driver, Chris Denari.
Oh, good.
Oh no, I could take a stick and tie a brick on the end of it, I think, and hit just as well as I'm hitting. I don't think it matters what you put in my hand right now, and I am so infuriated.
Hey, Dustin, I was going to ask, what are you doing down in Georgia?
Well, I moved here, and my soon-to-be ex-wife took a job here.
Okay.
So I've not moved out of the state yet.
He's heading back. I'm trying to get him back up to Indiana. Is that looking like that's going to happen? But he's got a lease. Is that going to happen after the lease?
Maybe. We'll see.
How long have you been down?
I've been down in Kennesaw for 3 years now. I moved out of India.
You could have just hitched a ride on the lady that's the new president of IU, right? She was at Kennesaw State.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
You should have got a job with her.
She used to sit right behind me at the Kennesaw State basketball games too.
All right, I got to bring us back in, y'all.
Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back this Thursday. Chris Denari from the Pacers joins Dustin, Schutte, and myself. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
And trying to enjoy this nice week of weather we've been having after that deluge we had over the weekend. How'd you survive that thing, man?
Well, I wasn't here. I was down.
Lucky you.
I can exactly see where I was because it was a surprise. But I was down in Myrtle Beach, so I was down not far from Dustin, I guess. But I was down in Myrtle Beach visiting our oldest son. He proposed to his girlfriend on the beach on Saturday morning. And she had no idea that her parents and then my wife and I would be there. And so we had a great
weekend. Y'all just come out over the dunes? Did you sneak out over the dunes after he proposed?
That was a little bit. I mean, they kept walking and walking. I'll tell you what, technology really helps because my son did a wonderful job with where we needed to be, and he had pinned himself on his iPhone and all those kinds of things. So it was great. Our future daughter-in-law is a native of Louisville. She went to UK. I know for many of the people listening, that doesn't go over well, but they'll get married next June down in Louisville. So excited to add her to the family.
That's awesome. Not everyone can get into a college, but it's okay. It's all right for me. Oh, no. But, man, the NBA, it's so funny that I talk to people, I don't like the NBA. I don't watch the NBA. Even if you're not an NBA fan, if you can't watch the playoffs and enjoy the hell out of those things, you're not a sports fan because it reminds me of the 80s watching them. I mean, today's NBA game is not fun during the season at all. But, man, when they get to the playoffs, well, I mean, I meant compare for me, like when I'm thinking back to the 80s and the 90s. But, man, when the playoffs come, it's just like it. That their defense they're inside the jerseys. It is just it's phenomenal.
These are the best players in the world. I mean,
and they show it now.
They are the best players in the world, and the regular season is long. I get it. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the Tuesday night in Charlotte, or it used to be the Wednesday night in Atlanta. People would go, "Hey, Atlanta." Well, you're seeing how good the Atlanta Hawks are now. I think this is a renaissance time for the league from the standpoint. Everybody was worried, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Durant and LeBron aren't going to be in the Final Four. I mean, you're seeing some bright young stars. I mean, what Trae Young did last night, what Devin Booker has done, the league is in great shape. I mean, you just have so many talented players. I'm really excited. I just read a story on Ringer that the last 3 years, the Hawks and the Suns, if you combine their record, they were 27th and 28th in the NBA. 27th and 28th of the 30 teams. And here they are in the Final Four, and these two teams could very easily meet in the NBA Finals. So, yeah, I mean, I have people tell me that I don't watch the NBA or, this and that. And I go, well, if you haven't watched it, you're missing it because, these games have been outstanding. It's really good basketball. I'm just one of those that, I like all forms. I mean, I played high school basketball. I played Division III basketball in state. I had sons that played high school basketball. I was the voice of Butler for 17 years. So I cover the gamut of basketball. And my point would be, if you can't like this, then I'm not sure you really like basketball. That's
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. It has just been phenomenal. And I actually think this, maybe it was because of COVID, but man, this round of playoffs has just seemed elevated, not just from last year, but maybe the year before. Year has just seemed special for some reason.
Well, I think part of it is, let's be honest, a lot of it is watching these games and seeing the fans, right? I mean, we win a year even if you go back to the NCAA tournament, and the NCAA tournament was great what they did here in Indianapolis, and they had fans, but it was still very limited. You're now looking at buildings that are packed and making all kinds of noise. I mean, it's like last night after the game, I turned over before I went to bed just to watch some baseball, and I watched the Padres and the Dodgers, and that field, where the Padres play was packed. So I think the experience for all of us, Jim and Dustin, now watching on television is much different because there's an energy. I mean, it was hard as a broadcaster to do all of these games with no fans or limited fans because there just wasn't a lot of energy. And I think what you're seeing are these players then are feeding off the energy, something that they've not had for basically a year. So, I mean, every night, that's the one thing I love about the NBA is when the playoffs start, you literally have some type of game every night for a good month. And if you're a basketball fan, it's like March Madness on steroids, right? We love March Madness, but we only really get a limited look at it because they're playing the first round. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then you take a break. I mean, here in the NBA, it's every night you're seeing some great basketball. And last night was another one. I mean, I thought that Milwaukee, when they had that 105-98 lead, I thought they had put it away, and the Hawks came back and got the win.
And go ahead, Dustin. Before I just want to, Dustin joined us today. He's leading the Tour de France. I don't know if you knew that.
yeah, bright yellow shirt. One of the things I watched last night, Chris, and I think we can talk about this because of the Nate McMillan factor, is that when the Hawks were down, they are a young team, and yet they looked down the stretch like the more poised team. And when I watched that game last night, the thing that I really enjoyed is Trae Young is a phenomenal player. They have some really good players on that roster. They're a smart team, and they look like they're having fun just playing basketball together. And that's really enjoyable. And not to say other teams don't, but it gets a little, I don't want to say watered down, but I don't get that same feeling when I watch James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant on the same floor. I feel like there's a lot more pressure. Atlanta started out this season where they look like they were going to be in the lottery, a top 5 team, a team drafting in the top 5, and all of a sudden they're on the verge of going to the NBA Finals. They just look like they're having so much fun. They play smart basketball. Atlanta made the right move. That's what's been so fun to watch. I think a lot of these teams are just having fun, and that maybe even just goes back to the fact that you have fans in attendance now.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and I think it will be interesting to see these teams going forward, Phoenix and Atlanta, because all of a sudden expectations are going to change, right? A year from now, these teams will have far different expectations than they have now. Really, the pressure is on the Bucks and the Clippers because those are more veteran teams. Lots of pressure on Mike Budenholzer to get the Bucks to the finals. You've got Paul George, who missed 2 huge free throws the other night that gave Phoenix the opportunity to win. So you're right. It's interesting how the script turns because you're right. When Atlanta fired Lloyd Pierce, they were 14-20, and they were 11th in the Eastern Conference, and yet they finished in the top 5. And give a lot of credit to Nate McMillan, for guiding that turnaround. And sometimes if you haven't been there, and these Hawks have not been there before, they really don't know what that pressure of the playoffs is or are. So give them a lot of credit. That was an impressive win. That's 3 straight series. They have won game 1 on the road. 3 straight against some pretty good teams.
That's big. That is critical because you're automatically off to a good start, especially if you're not hosting, if you're not getting the long series. That's so critical. And that's the mark of a veteran team.
Yeah.
With a veteran coach. So. Right. That's a crazy stat that you brought up.
The thing that I always think applies to this, and I've applied it to the Hawks. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie For Love of the Game with Kevin Costner, but there's in that movie where one of the guy who is about to potentially end the perfect game, the comment is he's too young and too dumb to really know the magnitude of the situation. Yeah. might be and I feel like that's kind of what the Hawks are in right now. It's not, obviously they're not, it has nothing to do with their intellect, but not having that knowledge of the situation, not feeling that pressure. Like I said, I enjoyed watching. It looked like the old, 2010 Pacer or the 2012-13 Pacers, where they were just out there having fun. They had Paul George, they had Danny Granger, just out there kind of playing ball. And that to me, again, that's a lot more fun to watch than personally to me to watch Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, and I think they're playing with no pressure. And I think that's a huge advantage for this group because, all of these guys have not been there before collectively. Now they've got some guys, Clint Capella, when he was with Houston, has played at a high level in playoff situations. But if you think about John Collins and Trae Young and Kevin Huerter, somebody who has had some experience in the playoffs last year in Miami a little bit, and with the Pacers is Solomon Hill. I mean, he gave them some late minutes yesterday, and they did it from a defensive standpoint. What was interesting was last night, Middleton has had, a really good year, but he struggled getting the ball in the basket last night. And that really hurt Milwaukee because down the stretch, even though they want the ball in the hands of Giannis is not going to make a three. And even though Giannis made a couple of free throws late, you'd probably rather have the ball in somebody's hands that if they get fouled is going to make free throws. So all the pressure now is on Milwaukee to try to head back to Atlanta 1-1. And they've done that before. I mean, they've dealt with the pressure. So it will be fascinating to watch.
You talk about, I was going to cut him off. Ben Simmons is talking about someone that you need to hit free throws and such or hit shots. There's a guy who is not doing that for his team and got called out by his teammates. But in a way that I think it was proper, and he seems like he took it properly, which is not always the case in the NBA, but it seemed like that message was delivered and received. Now he's got to do something about it because this is not an issue that developed last month.
No, and I don't think, Ben Simmons does not have to be a three-point shooter or a threat from 20 feet, but he's got to be confident to score, especially in fourth quarters. I mean, the play that everyone's talking about, he drove the baseline and virtually had a dunk, and he gave it up to Matisse Thybulle, who got fouled. And a lot of people are saying is because Ben Simmons didn't want to get fouled and go to the free throw line. Yeah, he's got to get over that. You cannot be I don't know where he would rank in the NBA. I mean, he's an all-star. He's a top 20 player, but you can't be a top 20 player and not want the basketball down the stretch. I mean, that's just not going to go over well. And Philadelphia has spent so much time in the process in building around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid that that had to be very deflating for them and puts a lot of pressure on them and their organization as they move forward in the future because you've got New York who's going to be better. Atlanta's going to be better. Teams like, Miami, who was in the finals last year. I mean, I'm going to throw the Pacers in because the Pacers are going to have a new coach. I think they'll rebound in some way next year. I don't know how that will be or what it will be, but there's going to be a lot of competition in the East. So you cannot waste opportunities. And I'm sure that's what Philadelphia felt that they did.
One of the things that has been also entertaining about the NBA playoffs this year is you kind of saw a lot of the talk was going to be, Brooklyn's going to be the NBA champions because it's a super team. And I start to think back, it worked in Miami, it worked in Golden State for a time, but right now you don't really, I mean, the Clippers, if you want to call them a super team, but at the same time, the Raptors were not a super team when they took down Golden State. You don't have really a super team right now because Kawhi Leonard's injured. Do you think that there's an NBA, a mindset maybe among NBA GMs and presidents right now that it's like we're seeing depth pay off more than having three superstars and having just a couple or, some average guys on your bench? I think what we've seen this year is like you have to have that depth to make a run. I don't want to say it's the death of a super team because you get the right three pieces or four pieces in there and you can still make a deep run. But at one point I thought the NBA was going to go to a system where we had three or four really, really good teams and everybody else was just playing for fifth or sixth. I don't get that sense anymore. If you have one star player and a really good supporting cast, I feel like anybody can win the NBA championship.
I agree with you, and I think everything's a copycat, right? NFL, college football, college basketball. Look at college basketball. I think everybody right now would like to play like Baylor played, right? I loved watching Baylor in their run in March Madness, and it culminates with a championship, and so I think you're right. What's interesting is we didn't get to see Brooklyn at its best, I guess, because you had no Kyrie Irving, with Harden was hurt and Durant. But I think what you're seeing with somebody like Phoenix is Chris Paul considered a superstar? I think he's really, really good. I don't know if I would put him in the category of that LeBron and that area, but I think he's really, really good. But you added him to a young up-and-coming team, and that's really all they needed to break out. Now, Devin Booker probably will be one of those players. So I think you're right. I think it gives a lot of franchises hope because a lot of these superstars have matriculated to the coasts, right? Down south to Miami, to LA, Clippers, Lakers. Maybe we'll see they went to Brooklyn. We haven't seen that in the past with the Knicks. Maybe that they're a little bit better. You'll see it. But I think there's an opportunity for a lot of teams to improve. And I think, as you said, Dustin, building that depth is something that you really need to focus on.
And I talked about it before. This is why I really want to see. I truly still believe the Pacers may be one piece, and maybe that one piece is TJ Warren at 100% and Karis LeVert with a full season to recover. What I've seen from the Pacers, I think if they improve defensively, I think they've got enough to maybe not win an NBA title, but you get one experienced guy, you get one leader. And as Kevin Pritchard said, that can be an Al Jefferson, a guy who doesn't contribute much on the court. You get that one piece, and I don't see why they can't be in Atlanta or a Milwaukee. I think they can be in that conversation.
I think you're right. I mean, I think that's why this is going to be a very important offseason, a very important coaching search that's going on. The combine, the rookie combine, is up in Chicago, and I believe the Pacers are interviewing coaches up there. Before we went on the air, you guys were talking the names that are out there right now. Terry Stotts, of course. Rick Carlisle's no longer in Dallas. Steve Clifford, Brian Shaw. Those are guys with head coaching experience. So I think the Pacers' job is a really good job. It's got great ownership. It's in a market that, 9 out of the last 12 years they've been in the playoffs. If you go back the last 30 years, they rank in the top 5 or 6 in most appearances in conference finals. I think 8 since 1990. So I think this is an attractive job. I think it's a very good roster. They just need a jolt of energy, and I'm hoping that we'll get that with the new coach. And then as the summer moves along.
Yeah, the draft, they didn't get any luck in the draft, stayed at the number 13 spot, which is fine because I think it was Bob Kravitz that pointed out that Donovan Mitchell and there was someone else.
Yeah,
yes, Devin Booker, 13 picks. But you got to pick those guys. But getting back to the coaching, I don't know if there was been a time where, man, there's a lot of really good candidates there right now that has great experience. It's making the right fit for the future, but what's the team going to be too? So we talked about that. What are you going to have next year? Are you going to move someone? Who are you going to draft? So there's a lot of moving pieces that are still moving, and that's what makes it so difficult to make it come together.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about this year, it's a much different coaching roster that is available than last year. I mean, we've just thrown out all those names. Now, I guess Brian Shaw would have been among somebody you could have interviewed last year. He's coaching the G League Elite team. But with Carlisle and Clifford and Stotts, a name I'll throw out there, Kenny Atkinson, who was the former coach in Brooklyn. He's on the bench in LA with the Clippers. It's going to be interesting. I mean, there are a lot of openings right now. Looks like Brad Stevens is honed in on Ime Udoka as the new head coach of the Boston Celtics. He was a longtime player in the NBA, comes from the Greg Popovich tree in San Antonio. That's why, this is sort of a really neat time because you've got the games on the floor in the NBA postseason, but you've got the off-court stuff happening as well. So that's why this has become a 12-month league, and we'll go into the draft in July, summer league in August, and then the season will restart to get back to normal in October this year. So it'll be fascinating. We need to enjoy some of our time off right now because next season will be here before you know it.
You mentioned earlier, and we talked about it, and I know there's never going to be a change, but the NBA season is at least 20 games too long. And when you see guys, the stars, I'm taking the night off. Now, baseball, we see that, but that's 162 games. But when those guys are, what's the term, load management,
right?
Doing the load management, well, then lighten the load and shorten the season. But I know that the TV money and it's what it's all about, but I think they would have maybe a better fan base if it was a little shorter, but that's not going to happen. I know that.
No, I think if you get back to the 82 and you just manage it, this year they crammed 72 games into a shorter period of time. I mean, it was really short. And then you had the pandemic and you had COVID. I mean, there were teams in the second half of the schedule playing like 41 games in like 70 days. That's because, teams went 2 weeks without playing. So I don't, what's the right number? Is 72 the right number? But you're talking TV contracts and building and revenue. You're talking about somebody here. Does Kristen Arians
the players' salaries?
Yeah. Do I want to do fewer games? No, I don't want to do fewer games.
Right.
So I think you just have to. I think you just have to manage it. I mean, Jim, look at football. Football's added a 17th game. They're going to add an 18th game. College football's adding the college football playoff, which I'm a big fan of. I love the fact they're going to 12.
Yes.
I think in this day and age, everything is changing from a television standpoint. That live games, I don't care if they're regular season or whatever, are huge. I just saw something. The ratings may be down. Well, they're up from last year. They may be down from 2 years ago a little bit, but the share is up because there are much more. There are fewer people watching network and cable television because they're streaming. And Nielsen numbers don't necessarily show the streaming numbers, but the NBA share is up. So more people that are watching television are actually watching these live sporting events. And the numbers of the young, of the 18 to 49, that's what they're looking at. And those numbers are huge. I think I saw something where on average watching an NBA game, it's like 2.5 million people are of the age of 18 to 49 watching a network scripted show on ABC, CBS, NBC, or whatever, or Fox. It's like 500,000. So it's like 4 times the amount of people in the window that those advertisers want are watching NBA or sports than scripted television. So that's a long answer, but I think everything's fine right now. You just got to make sure you're putting out the best product you can.
Yeah, and like I said, if they continue to do that, man, I think this playoff, it could propel them into next season. Could gain them some fans because these games have been riveting. I've been at places watching them with people, and I'm like going, man, that dude's over watching this game. But they've just been riveting. They're fun. We know Dustin's in love with them.
I am. And the one thing too, I think the one thing the NBA kind of remedied when you talk about maybe having a season that goes too long or people may not have the interest from October through May. I watch every single Pacers game, and then I watch, the games that are on ESPN and TNT. But I think that the NBA did a really smart thing by implementing that the play-in tournament. I mean, that makes games with teams that would otherwise be out and might start, quote unquote, tanking for a high draft pick. You added that level of intrigue. So there's constantly something to be watching, even during an 82 game season. I think that was a really smart move for the NBA to say, you know what, we've heard maybe some of the complaints about maybe the basketball isn't quite as meaningful the last month or two of the season, depending on what team you're rooting for. Now you've just added, basically 4 extra teams into the mix, 4 extra markets that are now, in another year, it might be 5 or 6 extra markets that you wouldn't otherwise get. So I think that's the NBA said, you know what, this is how we're going to remedy eliminating some of these teams at the end of the season. We're going to create this one-time playoff, and it was a great tournament. I enjoyed that setup. I enjoyed the games. I know it didn't work out well for the Pacers, but it added a level of interest that last month of the season that just wasn't there in the past, in my opinion.
And finally, we know that, not everybody's like Dustin, Jim. Not everybody's going to watch every game. But if we have 4 games a week, a fan may watch a couple of them and they follow the game on their iPad or whatever. I mean, I'm the same way. I'm a huge Reds fan. We've talked about that. And I don't watch every Reds game, but I watch a lot of them. And those games that I'm not watching, I make sure I check the box score, see how the pitchers did. So I think it's just a little bit different the way people consume games. I know when I go to Twitter and there are Pacers highlights, you'll look down and my kids will tell me, they go, Dad, do you realize that like 75,000 people have watched this clip of you calling a Karis LeVert play? That's impactful. Again, it's just different with how things are delivered these days. People are still following it. They may not watch every game, but they still know what's going on.
Absolutely. Do you finally have a weekend off yet?
Yes.
Because you've had to go somewhere, do something ever since the Pacers season ended. It's been something going on. I'm like, man, your summer's gonna be gone.
Yeah, next week, next Saturday, the 3rd through the 10th, we head up to Michigan for a week. We have 3 families. The wives all met well before we all had kids. In fact, 2 of the couples weren't even married. They were hairstylists together. And so we have 3 families that this will be our 15th year in a row, I believe, that we go up to a lake house in Michigan. And our oldest son is 31, and he and his fiance now will be there. Our kids still want to come. That's awesome. It's not like they're 15 and 16 and mom and dad say, hey, you got to come. They'll be coming from all over. So we're really excited about the 3rd through the 10th. We'll have a lot of fun. So, yeah, I'll try to I've tried to hit the golf ball a little bit, still not as much as I'd like. And at some point later in the summer, Jim and I will get together and we'll hit the little white ball.
Well, I got to get better. I can tell you that, because that new driver did not do it for me. But I got some new irons from Tommy Zeller yesterday, so I'm hoping for them. But
oh, that's great.
We'll look forward to it. But, buddy, I hope you have a great – well, I know last weekend was relaxing for you. I didn't mean that was work. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And congratulations to both of them. That is an incredible thing. So have a happy weekend up in Michigan.
Okay.
It's an awesome place.
Yeah, I'll talk to you
next week.
Yeah, I'll talk to you next week, and then it'll be the following Thursday that I'll be out.
Have a great one, brother. We appreciate you so much.
All right, thanks.
The great Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers joining us, man. One of your favorites. We got more to go. We got basketball to talk about when we come back, and plenty more after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for
that was a 32-minute segment.
Well,
sure was.
Chris is
no. Well, there's just so much we can talk. We can just keep going.
Well, it's kind of like with the Mike DeCourcy thing. Like, you could have split it up into 2 segments and made it.
Well, I knew he probably didn't. I didn't want to keep him for that was longer than I anticipated it being. It just, when it's good, I don't want to stop it.
I don't blame you.
Because I know that, because I can. If the radio stations were airing us live,
Yes,
we would
that's a
have
different
to
story.
because we would
Yes.
have to hit the brakes and all that. We create our own brakes, which I
Yeah.
love.
Yep. Yeah, I've loved getting to know Chris a little bit.
Oh, he's just an awesome guy. Well, when you move your ass up here,
That's well, that's always what I heard. He's the best of the best, but obviously never talked to him before. But
who's the Louisville kid? Indiana just looked at.
It's Caleb Glenn.
Oh, that's him?
Yeah.
Now that's the second. Who was the other player?
Oh, there is
from
another
Louisville or
one.
Kentucky? Is the other kid from Louisville or from just?
Oh,
Kentucky?
no, he's from somewhere else in Kentucky. I think he's from
But
London.
the fact that's two. They, in my memory of my lifetime, there has never been two players from Kentucky Indiana has looked at it in the same season ever. As a matter of fact,
they normally don't have the
I
talent.
can count. I know, but I can count on one time how many times they've ever looked at a kid in Kentucky.
I can't think of the other guy's name right now. But this one, the Caleb Glenn's from Mail. The other guy, I think he's from London, Kentucky, if I remember.
Well,
right.
Caleb Glenn's visiting today.
Well, that's one. Here's the thing: when Kentucky has talent, they'll reach into the state. They didn't have much talent this past season. They had Zion Harmon, and that was about it. At least in terms of top level talent.
Yeah, they don't have. Yeah, they don't produce talent. Let's see. Tuesday was 2023 Christmas Addicts wing Jalen Hooks. Yesterday, Cathedral's Xavier Booker, and Glenn is today.
All right, here we go.
Just $180 a month or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Happy Thursday! Welcome back, Dustin Schutte from Saturday Traditions with me as always. Indiana basketball, Mike Woodson is handing out offers and getting visitors on campus. Tuesday was the first day that college coaches could contact class of 2023 recruits, and that resulted in Indiana extending an offer to Louisville Male High School's Caleb Glenn. I mean, that's the second kid from Kentucky that they're looking at this year. And I said in the break, I can count on one hand in my life how many times I can recall Indiana looking at a kid from Kentucky. Never two in a season that I ever recall. There's just not, they don't produce a ton of talent there. And if they do have any talent, well, obviously they're going to probably go to Louisville or UK. But he's a 6'7" wing. He's on Indiana's radar, and he's got an offer now. And he visits Bloomington today. He's got offers from places such as Arizona State, Louisville, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Iowa State, South Carolina, and Wake Forest. Arizona State, Illinois, South Carolina, Arkansas, Memphis, and Ohio State were some of the programs that reached out to him on Tuesday for the first time. So obviously this kid's going to be getting a lot of attention. It will be interesting to see if he gets out of the state, because they don't produce the numbers of talent that Indiana does. Like I said, it's Louisville or Kentucky. I mean, because those are two good programs to begin with. And so, but Kentucky does a lot of most of their recruiting through Nike. No, I'm kidding. They do nationally. They're recruiting nationally. Louisville will get some hometown kids, but that'd be interesting.
We talked about it a few weeks ago with Kyle Netterip. Indiana, you look at that roster for the Indiana-Kentucky All-Star game and look at all the schools Indiana kids are going to. those high and
5 Big Ten schools.
Compare it to what you had on the Kentucky side, and it's night and day. And that's why we talk about Indiana usually dominates that series. And so it is interesting. Those kids that are really good in Kentucky, that Kentucky and Louisville really want to land those kind of kids, because it's hard enough to get the in-state recruits. And Mike Woodson's he has no interest in letting that go. So that's another good sign. He's not afraid to cross those state borders to get really good talent.
Yeah, John, the producer, says the other guy is 3-star Reed Shepard from London, Kentucky, North Laurel High School. I don't remember a lot about him. I'll look that up. But yeah, it just goes to what I was talking about earlier, and that net that Mike Woodson and staff is throwing out there. Before, a lot of coaches, they just have their spots where they like to recruit. And of course the assistants, that's why you have 3 assistants. They usually they're good here. You got a guy that's good on the East Coast. You got a guy that's good in the Midwest. You got a guy that's good in the South, and whatnot. They're saying to hell with that. Woof. Here's this cover this half of the United States, or this, part. They're making the region a little bit bigger. But it doesn't matter where they are anymore. These guys are trying to get the best talent possible. And that's what you have to win, along with the right fit and all that. But it is just, let's get the best talent. And how can you not be impressed with what this staff has done in this short of time?
Right.
It's boom.
Well, this was the biggest, in my opinion, this was going to be the biggest concern. Mike Woodson can coach basketball. He coached the NBA. The big concern when he was hired is, he's never recruited. He's never had to deal with the 24/7, 365 nature of college basketball. So the fact that he's, basically, as you call it, the parade through Assembly Hall, reaching out to these kids, not just within the state, but he was able to get kids through the portal. He was able to get players at Indiana who had entered the portal to return to Indiana. He's reaching out to 2022, 2023. So the fact that he's doing so well in recruiting, and he hired staff members that have that experience in like you said, the different regions of the country, the fact that he's doing so well in recruiting right now, that's a really positive sign, because that was kind of viewed as the one thing that might be the thing that might hurt him. And clearly that it's worked in his favor so far.
Let's see. I think that who's your friend? You're talking about Caleb Glenn, I believe, when he says he's a great talent, but likely UNC bound. He loves Carolina. Doubtful that Indiana gets him per visit. Because before that, Chris asked, what do you think of the Washington kid from Gary, or those other 2 Indy kids? So I'm not sure who you were talking about, but I have not gotten to see Jalen Washington play because he was sat out the All-Star game that I went to. But obviously he is a hot commodity. So it will be interesting to see how that one works out, because those are the ones you really don't want to lose. I've talked about it for Indiana football. They need to get to that point of winning those big-time elite battles in the state. Losing Trey Kaufman, just from a perception standpoint, was a little bit of a blow. But no, that's gone because of the change of staff. That gaffe is completely wiped out because that would never happen again now. And it happened simply because of who was in place at the time. But yeah, I just getting these guys on campus is doing wonders. But the fact that people were concerned of, and I should have thought about this before too, of Mike Woodson's, will he be able to recruit? He's been dealing with prima donna NBA basketball players for all this time. If you can deal with prima donnas, I think you can deal with 18-year-old kids. I really do. I mean, because they're more wide-eyed. They're more apt to listen. And he's got the stories to tell because he lived them, he did them, and he's done it at the highest level. dealing with those NBA players is tougher than hell. It may be the toughest coaching job in coaching.
You're not wrong, but my counter to that would be Lovie.
I'm glad you didn't say the next line from the Big Lebowski.
Lovie Smith came in and his recruiting was awful. And I thought, this is the guy who led the Bears to the Super Bowl. He's in the state of Illinois. Recruiting's going to come easy. Everybody knows who Lovie Smith is. They're going to want to play for him. And basically, he just wanted to coach football. So that's where my mindset was with Mike Woodson. Is he going to want to come in and just coach basketball and not do the rest of it? Because that's where the problem would come in my opinion. And again, he surprised me. I didn't know what to expect, but that's where I thought that was going to be the hitch. I thought that was going to be the one arrow he didn't have in his quiver. And he was willing, and he hired the staff. He hired Thad Matta, Dane Fife, Yasir Roseman. So he's got guys there to help him do that and make that transition. Because in the NBA, you're right, you're dealing with personalities, but you're primarily coaching. This is so much different. You're recruiting constantly, you're coaching constantly, you're developing. So that's where when I saw what happened with Lovie Smith, I'm like, could this be the same issue with Mike Woodson? And he's hit the ground running. So I have
the difference. I think it's so much difference though between football and basketball because of the magnitude. Man, with basketball, there's less guys to focus on, and it's a little easier to do that. Whereas if in football, if you're not a Tom Allen type or a Nick Saban, which is the opposite because of just the winning and all that, because it takes, I don't know what Tom Allen runs on, but it takes a ton of energy to be a college football coach if you're going to be a good recruiter. And like you said, or you just could be lazy, or if you're very, very successful, then you get to sit back and wait for the phone call. Yes, let me hold on and wait for the president. But Lovie didn't have either of that. Illinois sucked, and he didn't get out and recruit. So there was neither of that going on there. And it's so big that if you're doing nothing in that large of a deal, you're screwed. And that's why there was zero improvement on there. They didn't recruit. They didn't develop. You're exactly right. He just came in and coached. And in the NFL, that's what you do because you have a general manager. You have all that done for you. You have position coaches that you meet with. You're a manager.
Right.
You're basically a manager as an NFL coach. And you are that way in college, except for the recruiting aspect has to go on to it. But I agree with you. But yeah, Lovie did not put the effort in. No,
and that's the only thing. Again, this had nothing to do with Mike Woodson being a bad coach. It just when you've had your entire career in the NBA, that was my one concern. And again, I have no concern about that. What 3 months, 4 months, however long it was ago he was hired. So that was just the one question I had based on the experience that he's had. And again, he's solved it. We're talking about how great Indiana's recruiting has been. So
Tony points out, but Coach Woodson's background in AIDS, how's he going to be able to keep up attracting these kids? He heard there are corners of Alaska and the U.S. Samoan Islands he has yet to recruit. It's disgraceful. Just kidding. Good job, Tony. Thank you for their comment. And Ed asked, what recruit do I think is under the radar? All right, this kid's not under the radar, but he's a topic of conversation, and it's Leland Walker. That's not what you asked. But Leland Walker is the name that just keeps coming up to me. He's like, I don't think he gets an offer from Indiana, but he's one of those kids that you hope does not come back to haunt you. That's how I see Leland Walker. The dude can shoot. So I know that's not what you asked, Ed, but I'll look on that during the break. But Leland Walker, tomorrow when Alec is on with us, we can talk ad nauseum
about this stuff because there is so much to talk about. It's not stopping. It's not slowing down. It's like it just continues to move. There's more news out there all day. But we do have to take a break, and we'll be back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking, man,
I gotta mute my mic here for just a minute.
You're good.
Good Lord. I mean, Alec better plan on being on for 2 segments tomorrow.
I'm sure he will.
It's Fridays when he does the other ones, so
he does Toe and Tracy at 10:40, or excuse me, 9:40. Now you also have, I know you keep forgetting, I think Charlie Miller is going to join tomorrow too, unless you haven't checked with him yet, because he told you he was going to make it up for you on.
I don't recall that, but
I promise you he said that.
I don't doubt you.
You should message him and make sure.
Well,
or even I can if you want me to.
Message him. You remember him, so you message him and say, "Did you say that?"
That's fine. I'll message him and
because I didn't think you did. I don't remember that, but
you read the text. Honestly, I bet some of the listeners might have even heard you say it.
I don't doubt that. You could tell me right now, and I would not, because I'm like I said, I'm sitting there reading 3 different things at once.
I'll check in with him and see if he's good for tomorrow.
Let's see. Well, you don't have to do it now. He's probably training somebody.
I can still send the email. I mean, he'll see it.
I get my car back today.
All right.
Oh, sweet. It's a long time coming.
This dude's lucky I don't take a 7-iron with me. I thought it was 3 weeks he had it. I looked on the calendar. He's had it would be a freaking month today. But I've heard part of it's not his fault, really, that some of these damn parts they're having trouble getting in. Oh, my God. A friend of mine who used to be the golf pro here, God dang it.
You had a friend who's a golf pro and you still can't hit your driver?
Well, I know him.
Okay.
But I can't hit the driver the way I want to hit it. Anyway, he works for Dick's now. He's a manager. He just got out of messing with that crap. But he's just told another Tommy Zeller, a friend of mine I played golf with last night, that Dick's lost an entire container, one of those, you know how those gigantic ass containers they stack 1,000 feet high on
Jim,
those big ass.
We're coming back
off into the
Plan a
ocean.
day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Friday. It's Thursday. Looking forward to Friday, though. Alec Lassie will join us tomorrow, and we will get you completely caught up on all things recruiting. It is just a hectic week, and it's not going to slow down. I was talking in the break, man. A friend of mine I know that used to be a golf pro here. He now works he's a manager for Dick's Sporting Goods, and he told Tommy Zeller, who told me yesterday, that they lost an entire one of those gigantic containers that you see on the big boats. Like I guess it's the size of a semi.
Yep.
I mean, those things are like semi-trailer size, right? I mean, they're the same size.
They might even be bigger.
An entire one off into the ocean.
Ugh.
Nothing but golf clubs.
Man, I might swim down there and get a new set.
Well, I'm like, I guess Osama bin Laden's iron game must be picking up. Too soon? But can you imagine? I mean,
I can't. I don't even know how many clubs that is, but they're just sitting in a box at the bottom of the damn ocean. It's nuts. And how the hell does one of those things fall off a ship?
That's a great question.
One of those things. Are they not battened down? Are they just let the weight hold them on there?
I don't know. But you would think they wouldn't be moving a lot with all the weight on there, but that's a great question.
Robo Sprint said, could you imagine if Butch could land the Shepherd kid out of Kentucky? He's a UK legacy, and they have not offered yet. I would just enjoy the BBS. Oh, is that Jeff Shepherd's kid? Jeff Shepherd, didn't he play? He played for Patino wasn't he on that 98 team or in that area, I think? That Duke game around that Duke game? Is Indiana? I don't think they've looked at him, have they? Let's see. Shay says, Jim, do you know, he wonders where the hell Archie Miller? Oh, I can tell you where he is. Spending Indiana's money.
On a beach.
Where else is he going to be? Who the hell is going? I keep asking this. Who in the hell is going to hire Archie Miller?
Oh, what?
I'm asking this.
I know you're asking. I don't think some mid-major program, not
a mid-major, mid-major.
But that
I don't think he could coach middle school, but why? I mean, yeah, I think you got to be pretty desperate. I think he showed himself as half fraudulent. I mean, I've never seen someone do a worse job at I could put Kentucky's hire was bad, but Billy Gillespie was bad. But I think big part of Billy Gillespie's problem was his alcoholism. So, but there's always a reason. Like to my knowledge, and I don't even care to talk about him. He like had no hobbies. Like, Bob Knight, is intense and all that as he was. There was some, he was all fishing and hunting.
Right.
He was like a normal person in that regard. And so that shows me some normalcy. I didn't see anything like that with. So no idea. Doesn't have to. Neither of them would do. They between them, they probably banked about $60 million. So,
well, I was going to say, I don't know how, because a lot of those times those contracts are written. If you get another job, then we pay less of that buyout, and so he may take a break for a year or two or a couple of years, but he'll be hired again. He'll just coach at a mid-major program.
Spence said IU has reached out. Okay. So, see, that's what's making this so difficult now. This is like.
That's so many.
You need a chart, which there is that at thehoosier.com, but you have to be monitoring that all the time. It is changing constantly. And with that wider net, it's like, my God, it's nonstop. And then coming off the year where it wasn't as hard to track because nobody was coming in and visiting and this and that. But
right.
No. Yes, I should have left it up longer. Ed asked if Miller had a press conference on his firing. Press conference, man, he couldn't get out of town fast enough. I think his house was sold within 2 weeks, from what I heard. So, wasn't he on a beach a week after somewhere?
But you told me on this show.
Someone had said, that pointed out, but I don't even care to talk about that anymore. Let's get back to talking about fun stuff. That took years off my life. Him. I mean, I was like, man, I don't want to live through that again because I can't lie, man. So, but luckily that's not the case anymore. It's just so much positivity, and that doesn't mean national championships every year. That doesn't mean Big Ten championships every year, but it means competitive every year. And by God, Indiana should be competitive every year in basketball.
And
Right.
that's what made it so infuriating to fans that they weren't. There's no reason. There was no reason for those last 4 years to not be like it is right now. The reason was because of the people who were there. That's the two people who put him in place and was in place.
And you're going to have, when you broke down the game at points with Todd Leary at the end of the season or after games, I mean, there became a point when you guys would do the show, but you just talked about this.
Oh, God, he was so.
You just talked.
He didn't even.
You're not going to have.
He didn't even want to do the games half the time.
But
he would get so mad.
I can't imagine. I mean, and it wasn't even. I mean, I remember him saying he didn't want to watch a lot of the games anymore. But a lot of it is because it was the same thing game after game after game. You're not going to have that issue, I don't think, anymore.
No, but we all knew that. So that's what makes it mind-boggling. No, you're not going to have it anymore. I mean, I'm trying to temper not expectations. I don't have expectations. I don't have expectations. That's not my job to have expectations. But I do try to have a gauge of where I'm not there. I'm not even close to being there yet. Normally you are, but this is also a season where there's been so much flux, change, all in new faces. So that's going to be, my God, I can't believe this show's almost over. That's going to be a wait and see. And it's probably going to be until after they play a couple of games.
Right.
It's going to be that much of a difference, but man, we're out of time. I can't believe that. It flies. I can't wait to do this again tomorrow.
It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it too.
He'll be back. Dustin will be back with us. We'll get Alec Lasley on and see what else we can scare up. It's been a great day. I hope you guys go out and have a great day. You all have been awesome, man. We love you, whether you're listening on radio or the podcast or on YouTube Live. We appreciate you. Go to YouTube and sign up if you haven't. But for Dustin Schutte, I'm Jim Coyle and John, the producer. Until tomorrow, I will see you on the radio. Man, we're just at